Alright, so we've just finished with our navigation video, and I wanted to go over a few things about the bin and kind of organizing your video clips. So let's take a look. So we're right where we left off, and if we look here at the very beginning, let me try to zoom in. I'm clicking on my bin here. I'm going to zoom in, and if we look, we've got a couple different icons here. The first one is the untitled sequence, and you notice that the icon is a little film strip and it's a little longer than the rest, and that's giving us a visual indication that you have multiple different video clips in a project. So you've already created a project. If we look, the next one is an audio track, and we notice that the icon looks like a little waveform, so another visual indication, and the rest of them are little film clips that are just video clips that you've imported into your project. All right. Now let me zoom back out, and let's say we wanted to create. Let me go to this restaurant scene, and right now there's markers, in and out markers. I want to clear both markers. You can click this button right here, or hit the letter G on the keyboard. That also clears the markers. And I want to, as she's serving the coffee, as she's coming into that frame, I want to hit a letter I for in, and when she puts that down, O for out. And I want, of this entire section, of this entire video clip, I want just this little section of her bringing in the food. I want to make a sub clip of that. Okay, now this is useful when you have a really long video clip and you just need a little piece that you're going to use for your project later on down the road. So to make a sub clip, you just mark an in and an out, and then click and hold with your left mouse button and drag it into your bin. It's going to automatically go to the top part of your bin, and it's going to name it by default the same name as the parent clip or the master clip, and it's going to name it .sub.01. If you made another one, let's say you have 30 minutes of someone of an interview, and you only want certain segments of that interview to use in your project, you would make several different subclips, but you don't want them all named sub 1, sub 02, sub 03. You want to give them something descriptive. So she is serving food, so I'm going to name this waitress serves, hit enter, and then that's it. Now you notice that icon looks a little smaller, and that is another visual indication that it's a small portion of a larger clip. Okay? You'll also notice at the top, my bin, it has a little asterisk. That asterisk is telling us that we have made a change to this bin and we have not saved it. So we want to go ahead and save it. So Command S to save. I'm going to zoom back out, and that little asterisk goes away once we hit Command S. So now I've got a couple things in my bin. Now I want to organize it. I've got video clips, I've got an audio, I've got a sequence, and it just can get a little crazy. Right now we only have a few, but imagine if you're working on a really long project, you could have multiple clips, and so it's better on you. It makes it a little easier in your workflow if you organize right up front. So I've already made, down at the project window on my left-hand side, if I double-click the audio bin that I made in the previous movie, I can go ahead and grab my audio by the icon. Remember, if we click right on the name, AVID thinks we want to rename that particular file, which might be better instead of just audio track, but for now we're going to leave it as audio track. I'm going to click on the icon and drag it into my bin, and you notice that asterisk, so I'm going to Command S to save. And then I have sequences. I'm going to make another one. So I want to go back to my project window, right click and say New Bin, and I'm going to name this Sequences. Hit enter, and I'm going to bring this over here and grab my untitled sequence, which we should really name, and we will do that in just a second, and save that. So let's name it. And you want to get in the habit of naming things consistent. So if you're going to start with your last name or maybe your initials underscore the project name. Now this one was navigation, so I'm going to name it nav and save. And now you see how they're kind of, all the bins are out and I can't see anything and I just got one screen. You can grab the tab and bring them over. And now at least they're all in one little location. If we wanted to toggle through, we could use this little downward arrow and grab the particular bin that we need to use. Okay? If we notice, the original bin has that little asterisk, so I'm going to save. If we say it, save and save often is a common thing that we'll use all the time here. Okay? So get in the habit of that. So we've organized some of our bins. Now let's talk about your in and out. A lot of people, what happens is you make an in and out and you think, oh, I need to just adjust it. How can I move this guy? Well, to move it, let's say you wanted her completely off the frame. You just move your time bar, that little blue bar, and then hit the letter I again, and it readjusts to where that blue bar is. Okay, so keep that in mind. So now what I want to do is we have this nav bar sequence made from the previous movie, I want to make a new sequence. And you do that multiple ways, and I'm going to show you. We go to our bin, we can right click in a gray area and say, get that contextual menu and say new sequence. You can also go up to the clip menu at the top and say new sequence, and you'll notice that there's a shortcut key, Shift Command N. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go Shift Command N like Nancy, and it creates a new sequence, and automatically it wants me to name it, which again, get in the habit of naming your sequences. You don't want to have untitled sequence upon untitled sequence. It'll drive you crazy, so don't do it. So I'm going to name this rough cut, because now we're going to build a rough cut. And I'm going to save the file, Command S. So I'm going to go back. Since this bin only houses my sequences and there's nothing in my sequence, I'm going to go back to the bin that has all of the files, okay? And let's open up, let's say we really enjoy this clip. We've already screened it, and now we want to add it to our sequence. We can click and drag, certainly, and that adds it. I'm going to Command Z and bring that back. We can also use the Splice-In tool, which corresponds to the letter V, like Victor, on the keyboard. And if you notice, AVID, like many programs, will give you a little tooltip if you hover your mouse over that particular button. Okay, so if you're ever in doubt or you're unsure what it is, just hover and it'll tell you. So I'm going to hit the button on this one, and this particular source clip, if you notice, remember that track selector panel on the timeline? On the left, it's only given us V1, so video 1. So this clip does not have any audio connected to it. So just keep that in mind. And remember, the bin is connected to the source monitor window, and the timeline is connected to the record monitor window. All right, now we're looking down here in the timeline, and you notice this blue bar. That is the position indicator. By default, the position indicator always jumps to the very end of your clip, expecting you to bring another clip. So let me find one. So I'm going through, and I've already made an in and an out here. If I hit the letter V right now I have two clips. I have the car and the cowboy. Okay, two clips inside. And so that's the Splice-In tool. The Splice-In tool adds material to your sequence, okay? And those are yellow. And AVID tends to group like-minded tools together in yellow by color, and we'll talk about the Overwrite tool next, okay? But let's say your timeline position indicator here, that blue bar, is right in the middle because you've been moving it around. You can just drag into the time code bar here at the top or at the bottom and drag, okay? Let's say you grab another picture, another video clip, you find this one, and you want to add it here. So wherever that time bar is right here, if you hit Splice-In now, it's going to splice in right where that position indicator is. Let me show you. So it actually cut cowboy in half. Let me Command Z. Watch this bottom part again. I'm going to splice in right where I'm at. And that might be what you want. You might want to cut that cowboy in half, or you might not. So when in doubt, Command Z to save your butt. You can always go to the end. I'm on a laptop, so I'm going to do function right arrow. And then I want to splice in that one, okay? So you got to be careful of where that position indicator is at all times. So pay attention to where that is if you go to move it, okay? Now let's talk about the Overwrite button. The Overwrite tool is red, and the red tools in AVID can be destructive, so you must be careful. So the red Overwrite tool, what that does is it adds footage, but it also replaces footage. So let me take a look. If we are right in the middle here, and let me grab another one. Here's this clip. I'm going to make an endpoint, and if I hit the red button, it also corresponds with B, like boy, on the keyboard. It essentially overwrote all of the cowboy, most of it. We just got a little section. Command Z to do that back. So be careful. Know what you're wanting to do and use the right tool. The only way you do that is through kind of playing around in AVID, getting familiar with the tools. And so that's what I want you to do. Open up a project, grab a couple clips, build a couple clips, move them around, and get a feel for what the tools really do. Okay, if you ever want to put a clip in between clips, you can certainly drag it. Let's grab something else here. If I click and drag, you'll notice, hopefully you see this little white dot that goes around. It's a visual indication of where you'll be, but I don't want that. What I want to do is put it right in between. So if I command click, this means it's going to snap to the edit point between these two clips. And now, if I edit or I splice in, now it puts it right in between and there's no gaps, okay? It plays fluid. Now it doesn't really make much sense because we're not really looking at that, but you get the idea, okay? So on the next video, we'll talk a little bit about these tools over here in the timeline and what they can do for you. Thank you.